Hello, Lee, Art of Light Images, and today I'll be doing a user review on the Sony Zeiss F1.8 55mm prime lens right after this. Right, so before I crack on, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification and leave a nice comment. So today's review then is the Carl Zeiss Sony E-mount 55mm F1.8 prime lens. I've owned this lens for approximately 1 year now and I've adored using it. I'm sorry to cut to the chase straight away, but it's the best 50-ish lens I've ever used. Previously to this lens, I did have the Sony 50mm F1.4, which was pretty awful at f1.4. You had to stop it down to f2.2 to begin to get sharp images out of that one. Perhaps I just had a bad copy, but from what I hear, that's kind of standard for that lens. I also had the plastic Nifty 50 f1.8 Canon lens, which was okay. It just didn't produce very nice looking bokeh, or as they say in America. I said it before and I'll say it again, bouquet. Bokeh. Bokeh, not bouquet. Yeah, that's how you say it in America, isn't it? I'm trying to get my Americanese right. So again, only nice comments. Right, let's get back on track. So yeah, and I've also owned the Nikon f1.8 50mm lens, which was an adequate performer, but quite frankly, it was kind of boring. This lens isn't boring. I love the image quality that I get out of this lens. To be honest with you, I almost feel like I'm addicted to this lens. Now, I don't consider myself primarily to be a prime lens shooter, but when I got this lens, it really changed my outlook on using primes. Previously, Nifty 50s were just something that I had in my bag, and I found them to be really just boring. They filled a niche when I needed them to fill a niche. This lens, I enjoy going out with it. I look for situations where I can use it. I'm always looking for an excuse to use this lens. Now it costs in the UK, and I will put up how much it costs in dollars on the screen because I don't know off the top of my head, but in the UK this lens costs around £750. I've seen it as high as 900, but 750 is a nice kind of price if you can get it for that money. It does fluctuate a little bit like stocks and shares. I've noticed the lens goes up from say 750 to 850 to £900. I've never seen it more than that. Don't pay £900 for this lens. I know you can get decent used copies as well for about £550, £600 as well from eBay. Not that I'm promoting eBay, but they can give me some money if they want to. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. Get back on track. Filter thread size 49mm, which is nice because it means that filters aren't going to cost so much money. That being said, I've never used a filter on this lens. The range is f1.8 up to f22. Diffraction sets in around about f16, which is kind of on par with most lenses. But happily enough, at f1.8, this lens is really sharp. Not so sharp on the edges, but very sharp in the middle. And it sharpens up very nicely around f2.8 on the edges. It is 9.91 ounces or 281 grams. It weighs very little. I mean, this is definitely not going to be a hassle to carry around in your camera bag. Basically, it's such a small and light lens. There's no reason not to carry it around with you. In terms of the actual motor, I believe it uses a linear motor, but it is very quiet. It's very accurate. In fact, this is one of the most accurate lenses I've ever used for autofocus, and it's also really quite accurate at night time. I do a lot of night photography, and using this lens handheld without a tripod is a joy. So here's an image of me holding this lens, not of me holding this lens, geez, no. Here's an image taken with this lens handheld. And no, I'm not going to get rid of all my cutscenes. Or maybe I could put them in a compilation at the end. No, I'll just keep them in. Anyway, here's that photo. So in terms of the focal range, so it's a 55mm on a full frame camera, and it is a full frame lens. But on an APS-C camera it's 82.5mm, so it puts it right bang in the middle of the portrait range. So it gives a nice flattened out perspective, it flattens the face of a model, a subject, just makes for a more endearing image. The other thing is it has 9 rounded aperture blades, so the Bokeh, not bouquet. The Bokeh is lovely, it's dreamy, it's creamy, it doesn't distract. I've heard people in other reviews say that it did distract with some of their images. I don't know how you get this lens to create distracting bokeh. It's one of the finest bokeh I've ever seen of any lens in my life. It is a fairly expensive lens, being an f1.8 55mm, so you can buy the Canon f1.4, at least in the UK, for around about £300. You can buy the Nikon 50mm for around about £270. So it's about twice as expensive, or 3 times as expensive as its Nikon and Canon rivals. But I think it's worth it because it's a lens that is just, the images are kind of almost ethereal. And check these out. Okay, so build quality wise, it's made from metal, or at least it has an outer shell made from metal. The internals may well be plastic, it might just be some kind of a vanity shell, but it feels really good. It's nice in the hand, it feels nice and dense. It's very well made. The focusing ring is really well dampened, it's as smooth as anything. It has a concaved front element, which is odd. I don't think I've seen a concave front element on a lens before. They're normally kind of bulbous, they normally bulge out, but this one's concaved. What I don't like about the build quality, it's supposed to be weather sealed, but there's absolutely no weather sealing gasket on here. I'll do a close-up of this so you can see, but there's no weather sealing gasket. Weather sealed doesn't mean anything as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what the manufacturer says, although most of the time they won't call a lens, well, they'll never call a lens weatherproof, will they? Not unless it's meant for the water. But weather sealed doesn't mean anything. Weather sealed and dust resistant. Resistant to what? Resistant until the dust does get in. Doesn't really mean a great deal. The hood of the lens is really quite nice as well. So it's half plastic and half metal. I don't know if that's a Zeiss thing, because I've owned the Zeiss 24-70 f4, and that also had a half metal, half plastic hood. I've never seen it on a camera lens before. It's normally always metal or always plastic. So now we've got a 50-50. So why might this lens be so expensive, apart from the fact that it's kind of metal, weather sealed, has 3 aspherical elements, which are good. And why are they good? They sound good. No, seriously. Various types of glass in the lens, and I won't go too far off piece with this. In a lens, various pieces of glass are very hard to manufacture. It takes a hell of a lot of computations and a lot of work and grinding on the glass with specialist equipment. And a lot of the glass is very expensive, like flint glass, crown glass, fluorite glass, and it's easily damaged. Expensive to buy, expensive to make a mistake out of, expensive when it goes wrong in the factory. It takes a lot of skill to put a lens together with those specialist elements inside, so that does add to the price. But it does have the Zeiss T anti-reflective coating as well. And I can't say, weirdly enough, I can't say if I've experienced any lens flare at all with this lens. I don't know if that's something to do with it being a concave front element, but I can't say I've ever experienced lens flare to my memory. I'm going to have to go out there now and just see if I can get some. Maybe I should have done that before I did this video, but you know what, I'm excited about this lens, as you can tell. I'm not trying to sell this lens to you. I'm not a salesman for Sony or for Zeiss or for anybody else for that matter. But yeah, I won't lie about it. I know this is a very positive video about the Zeiss 55 f1.8, I'm not comparing it to anything else apart from those lesser Canon and Nikon lenses. Please be nice in the comments about that. I'm being honest, I've owned those lenses. But I can't think of too much to fault this lens on. It doesn't have any image stabilization, so maybe that you could consider to be a bit of a failing. The A7 III, many of the Sony cameras do have internal steady shot inside, so you can rely on that. That'll give, what, 3 or 4 stops. It's supposed to be 5 stops, but it never is. It'll give 3 or 4 stops of advantage there, so you can take a slower shutter speed shot and still hopefully get a sharp image. But the lens itself does not have that. But that's not really been a problem. I've had no problems with the Sony A7 III taking 1/8 second exposures with this lens. I don't think I've had anything at 1/8 of a second that's not been a keeper when I zoom in at 100%. But I won't go lower than that because I do have not the DT, no, it's not really that bad. See, it's not too bad at all actually today. I've not had so much coffee though, anyway. Yeah, so yeah, that's about it, I think. Negatives. What negatives are there? There's got to be more negatives than this. Got to be. What is wrong with you? Surely. I mean, this is made from plastic. Is that a negative? That's okay. Well, for those of you who have bought this lens and wanted to hear something happy about your lens, for those of you who wanted some buyer's, what's the term I'm looking for? So for those of you who have bought this lens, I think you did well. And for those of you who want to buy this lens, run out there and buy the sucker. Till next time, get out there and do something interesting. Cheerio.